All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about Nvidia, a company that has completely reshaped our world. But you know, this is not one of those overnight success stories, not even close. This is a story about survival, about staring into the abyss of failure again and again, and about a culture that was literally forged in fire.
So let's just start with this number, $3.3 trillion. In June of 2024, that's what Nvidia was worth, briefly making it the most valuable company on the entire planet. Think about that. To put it another way, if you had put 10 grand into their IPO back in 1999, you'd be sitting on over $13 million by the end of 2023. Just staggering.
And that right there is the big question, isn't it? How in the world does a company famous for making graphics cards for video games climb all the way to the absolute top of the mountain? Well, the answer isn't luck, and it's not just about the AI boom. It's a 30-year story of pure, unadulterated will.
Okay, so we've seen the summit, right? That unbelievable valuation. But that's the result of decades of brutal, relentless effort. So now, let's do a rewind. Let's go all the way back to the very beginning to really understand the man who built this whole thing.
Yeah, this part of the story, it starts with pain, suffering, and a Denny's diner. See, to really get Nvidia, you have to get its founder, Jensen Huang, and the wild experiences that forged his entire philosophy on business and life. So when Jensen was just a kid, his parents, who were recent immigrants, sent him to what they thought was this prestigious American boarding school. Turns out, it was a reform school for troubled youth in rural Kentucky. He was bullied. He was assigned to clean the bathrooms. His roommate was apparently covered in tattoos and stab wounds. It was there he learned to be tough, how to handle discomfort, and how to stand up for himself. And his next classroom? A Denny's in Portland. As a teenager, he started at the bottom, washing dishes, scrubbing toilets, before working his way up to busboy and then waiter. And this, he says, is where he learned to manage total chaos, to work under insane pressure, and to take just this incredible pride in doing even the smallest tasks perfectly. And this quote, this really tells you everything about his mindset. He wasn't just clocking in and out. He was trying to perfect the job. He was trying to be the best. He even had a goal to carry more coffee cups at once than anyone else. This drive, this sheer will to excel, that became the bedrock of his entire company.
So it's kind of poetic, isn't it? That in 1993, Jensen and two other brilliant engineers, Chris Malakovsky and Curtis Priam, they all met up and hashed out the plan for their new chip company right there in a Denny's booth over endless cups of coffee. And from that humble beginning, their resilience was going to be tested, like immediately.
And I mean, they were tested right away. The early years of Nvidia were not some smooth Silicon Valley fairy tale. It was a frantic, desperate fight just to stay alive. The company just lurched from one near-death experience to another.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It is brutal. Their very first chip, the NV1, was a complete and total flop. It couldn't even properly play Doom, which is the biggest game at the time. Then their biggest partner, Sega, just up and canceled the contract for their second chip. So they poured every last dime they had into this one final, desperate, all-or-nothing bet on a third chip. And get this, even when that chip succeeded, a manufacturing crisis almost bankrupted them anyway.
This phrase wasn't just some dramatic line. It became Jensen's mantra. He said it at every single company meeting. It was their reality. He wanted every employee to feel that constant, terrifying pressure. That one wrong move could kill the whole company. Complacency just wasn't an option.
And then came the comeback. After two failed chips, with just a few months of payroll left in the bank, they launched the Riva 128. And it was the fastest chip the world had ever seen. It shipped 1 million units in just 4 months. It captured a huge chunk of the market, and it literally pulled Nvidia back from the absolute edge of extinction.
You know, that constant trauma of being 30 days from failure, that wasn't just a phase they went through. It got baked right into the company's DNA. It created this unique, super intense, and brutally effective corporate culture they now call the Nvidia Way.
So what exactly is the Nvidia Way? Well, first, it's operating at the speed of light, which means you're limited by physics, not by some corporate process. Second, it's intellectual honesty. You confront your failures head-on, you don't hide from them. Third, there's a flat structure. Any employee can send a top 5 email with their priorities directly to leadership, Jensen included. And finally, honing the sword, which means embracing fierce, even uncomfortable, debate to forge the absolute best ideas.
This quote, this just perfectly captures the leadership style. It is demanding, it is incredibly intense,
but it's also about pushing people way past their own limits to achieve things they never ever thought were possible. It's a culture of really high pressure, for sure, but also incredibly high performance.
So, with this intense culture now in place, Nvidia made a bet, and this was a bet that was so long-term, so against the grain, that almost nobody got it at the time. It was a multi-billion-dollar gamble that would secretly lay the foundation for absolutely everything that was about to happen.
And that bet was something called CUDA. Now, in simple terms, CUDA is a software layer that lets developers use the incredible power of a graphics card for stuff other than graphics, things like scientific computing or financial modeling. It basically turned a specialized chip for gaming into a general-purpose supercomputer that anyone could program.
To really get why this matters so much, check this out. The TV show Mythbusters once did this brilliant demonstration of the difference between a CPU and a GPU. A CPU, your normal computer chip, is like one precise robot arm with a paintball gun, carefully drawing a smiley face one shot at a time. A GPU, on the other hand, is like a giant rack with 1,100 paintball guns all firing at once to create the Mona Lisa in a split second. CUDA is what unlocked all that massive parallel power for everybody else.
But here's the crazy part. For years, Wall Street hated this move. Analysts saw all the money they were pouring into CUDA as a pointless waste that was dragging down profits. They just wanted Nvidia to stick to gaming chips. But Jensen ignored them. He was playing a much, much longer game.
And that brings us to the payoff. For more than a decade, Nvidia just kept quietly building and nurturing its CUDA platform. And then, the world changed. The AI revolution ignited, and Nvidia was standing there, waiting with the matches. The Big Bang moment for modern AI really happened in 2012. A neural network called AlexNet. And get this, it was running on just 2 off-the-shelf Nvidia gaming GPUs. It absolutely shattered the competition in an image recognition contest. It proved once and for all that GPUs were the key to unlocking the real power of artificial intelligence.
And this is the ultimate payoff. When the AI gold rush finally started, Nvidia wasn't just lucky to be selling the shovels. No, they had spent a decade building the only viable mining equipment in the entire world. Their CUDA platform became the essential must-have ecosystem for pretty much every AI developer on the planet.
And that brings us right back to the core theme. And this is in Jensen's own words. Nvidia's success was not some grand destiny. It was earned. It was the result of surviving failure after failure, building a culture of resilience, making these crazy long-term bets, and just an unwavering, almost superhuman level of determination.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought. As we head into this new age that's going to be defined by artificial intelligence and all these complex algorithms, maybe, just maybe, the story of Nvidia proves that the most powerful force in building the future isn't actually code or silicon. Maybe it's something way more human, just sheer, unrelenting will.